And welcome back to the Marvel Movie Minute, a daily podcast in which we dig in deep to analyze the films of the Marvel Cinematic Universe 1 minute at a time. I'm Andy Nelson from The Next Reel. And of course, we are at the beginning of this whole universe looking at Jon Favreau's 2008 film, Iron Man. And closing out the week with me is Liz Whitaker from the Mean Girls Minute. Hey, Liz.
Hi, that's me.
That's you, and we are talking about minute 40 of Iron Man. On today's show, the minute starts with Iron Man getting buried in bullets, and it ends with Iron Man getting swallowed in flames.
Oof.
This is an action-packed minute. Bullets and flamethrowers and just things getting shot at people from every direction. It's just crazy.
Bullets and flamethrowers and rockets. Oh my.
This is a great minute for second unit stunt filming because you know that this is not Robert Downey Jr. at any point in the suit in this particular scene. This is probably Mike Justice every single time we see the Iron Man Mark I suit doing all sorts of awesome stuff. I mean, starting off, this minute starts with just that fantastic moment where we see the bullets continuing to hit Iron Man for, it's a good 5 more seconds of this minute. It started in last minute. And then he's got that great line that just says so much about who Tony is and just kind of the way that Iron Man is going to be when he goes, "My turn." And just sets those flamethrowers afire and lights up everything.
And this fire looks great.
It really does. I am never a good judge of real fire versus CG fire. Obviously, when it's swallowing the camera,
you gotta assume,
it's not the real fire. And then obviously, like when it's the guys, it's on the guy's legs and all the cases around him and he kind of falls through. That's the stunt guy and he's got all the fire stuff on and everything. But there are so many shots in here that I am always questioning as I'm watching. I'm like, is that real fire? Or is it like some real, some CG fire? I'm just like the worst at trying to figure that out.
I just gave up trying. I just assume that it's all, I assume it's all fake. I know that there's got to be some real fire in there somewhere, but I'm never going to be able to pick it out. So I just assume.
Well, I assume like when it starts up and you see the flamethrowers, I feel like I did see in the making of where they did kind of test some flamethrowers on his arm. So I'm assuming that some of that is real, but I highly doubt that the flamethrowers on the stunt performer's arms were shooting like 50-foot reach of just fire across everything.
This is I was going to say like a fire hose of fire. I didn't think about. All right. I didn't think about the irony of what was going to come out of my mouth.
You're right. It's interesting, though, that this is what he chooses to use as a weapon. I mean, we know he's got a rocket. We saw him use his rocket earlier. But this is what he chooses to take everybody out at this point. And he sets them on fire. He sets all of the Stark Industries weaponry that he saw earlier that they've been storing. He sets everything on fire. And it's just, you see him walking down this kind of valley and just setting everything on fire, left and right sides of him, just everything. I mean, he is going to take it down and basically destroy these people's ability to use any of his stuff. It's an interesting decision that that's what he chose to do at this point.
Yeah, I have a couple notes for Tony on this.
Okay.
The fire seems like a really effective way to clear out this outdoor armory they've got going on. But I might have used a different weapon and cleared out all of the humans first and then burned everything to the ground. Because that stuff's not going anywhere, and it's also not running around trying to shoot me.
Not only that, but, as we talked about earlier, when they're shooting into his cell, which is full of missile parts and things that blow up, here he is setting everything on fire that will blow up. This is all like ammunition and stuff that's going to explode,
while
and
he's
it
still
will.
In the middle of it.
Yeah, we see at the very end of this minute a huge explosion rip through here. it's like, is that the best thing that you can do? Is it smart? You're in an iron suit. It's going to cook you. You're in basically
in the Afghanistan desert.
Right. I mean, he's in a walking oven is really what he's in. And he's putting himself on the barbecue at this point.
Yeah, it seems like he learns a lot about tactics between this movie and, say, I don't know, Spider-Man Homecoming. because this seems like maybe not the best plan.
No, not at all. Well, it does make me wonder what was his plan. I mean, obviously he and Yinsen had a plan, and we talked a little bit about that before. But I think, I don't know, I guess in my head, I feel like they had a plan to escape, the two of them, that they had come up with. And I feel like a lot of this right now is Tony's rage at Yinsen's death. Because he gets that look on his face, that resolve, and I think a hint of rage that Yinsen is dead and he's going to take out the guys that killed him. And I feel like a lot of this right now is just Tony not thinking.
That's probably fair. He probably, I can imagine that he, as he lowers his faceplate, he's thinking to himself, I'm going to just burn it to the ground. And so he does.
Well, and it makes you wonder, like at this point, is he just thinking, I'm going to burn it to the ground and I don't care if I go with it?
If I survive, yeah.
Which
would be, if that's the case, that would be a little disappointing because his mentor that he, has just spent 3 months in a cave learning from has just told him not to waste his life.
Right. And here he was practically wasting it.
Exactly. But, Tony needed to burn off some rage and then hopefully he's going to straighten up and fly right.
Well, I do think actually we get a lot of that in this particular minute because he's just like walking down, setting everything on fire. Then you got that guy up on the hill, kind of get that little crash zoom in on him as he starts shooting at Tony. And that almost turns the tables here. And I think it stops Tony in his tracks. And then you see a couple other soldiers shooting at him, and one of them hits him in the leg. And it looks like it might break like a belt or something, from what I can tell. And it basically drops him to the ground. Like he can't move that leg very well. And I feel like that is actually kind of maybe what Tony needed to kind of get his head back on straight, so to speak.
Yeah.
Because then he points his flamethrower at something very specific. It doesn't really show us what it is, but whatever he lights up, that's just like goes up in flames. It's like a huge explosion.
As a boom.
And it seems like that's the thing that he realized he needed to do something to get out of here now. He went from, blind rage to I've got to come up with an escape plan. Let's blow that thing up and create some sort of cover.
Yeah. And again, like I mentioned in the last minute, watching these in a vacuum, it really ramps up the tension in this minute in particular because we just see Tony getting pummeled. And, if you're not paying super close attention, you don't really know that he's probably triggering that explosion as his means of escape. It just seems like, piling on the mayhem, and you're a little worried for him.
Oh, yeah. All of a sudden, it feels like everything is coming down on him. Like he seemed to have a handle on it when he's just setting everything on fire and everything's running. But once that guy up on the hill starts shooting at him and the tide turns, he really all of a sudden seems like, oh, this is it. He's all of a sudden dropped on the ground and he is surrounded in flame. And this is going to be the end of old Tony.
Yeah, he's a little overwhelmed.
Yeah.
And feeling overrun.
Right, exactly. And it's interesting because in the script, it actually is given a better sense of the damage that Tony is actually taking from all of this shooting and everything. It says, a withering barrage of gunfire knocks Tony to his knees. The hose to his flamethrower is pierced, setting his arm on fire.
Oh.
Another bullet catches a seam and enters his shoulder. So he actually gets set on fire and gets shot as it goes right through a crack and hits him. It's pretty interesting that we get a little bit more of, I guess I'd say like a vulnerability, which right now, the way the film plays out, it doesn't completely feel like he's vulnerable at all. I mean, he does kind of fall to his knee a little bit, but it still goes to that sense of the man inside the suit is safe because he's wearing the suit. And even though the suit is taking a beating, he still is fine.
I actually, when he's being pelted and finally drops, I get a little bit of a sense right before he drops of this sort of broken down baby doll look. That I'm sure there's a lot of crossover between your listeners and viewers of America's Next Top Model. But I feel like he does this sort of rickety body motion as he goes down. And it actually really communicated to me that everything was not well inside the suit.
Yeah, and I think even from when the guy on the hill starts shooting at him, the way that his head bobbles around, it's a lot more shaky than we've ever seen him up to this point. Like, he's really getting hit. So it does come through pretty nicely, I guess.
I think, they do a pretty good job for how much of a tank that suit is, of when the pieces move independently of each other, of it conveying that sort of damage. Because otherwise it's just this big impenetrable lunk of metal, and you're not going to get that feeling. So
Right. We need to feel a little bit like he hasn't created the perfect Iron Man suit. It would have been weird if he walked out and he was already in his red and gold suit. It would have seemed a little strange. We need to feel like he's got some growing to do still.
Right. Yes, that there's room for improvement and iteration.
Exactly. This minute does have a couple shots that I just love of this suit. One is the shot from behind about halfway through the minute, where you can see like all the servos and the fans and everything just kind of spinning and whirring. And it just gives you a sense of the fact that this is kind of this man-made suit that he came up with. I love that shot.
Yeah, I love the fan that he took out of a computer somewhere.
Right. Raza was wondering why his monitor kept shutting down. It's because Tony has the cooling fan for it.
One of his the heat sink out of his computer is it's gone, and he's just overheating
all the time. Come on. I love that shot. I also love the shot when Tony is on one knee and he's just surrounded by fire. This is about 54 seconds in, and he sets off the flamethrower, and you just get this fantastic shot of the Mark I suit surrounded by fire, shooting fire out of the flamethrower. That is a killer moment. Just a fantastic image.
That looks like it could be straight out of Mordor or something.
Right. He's in the volcano right there.
Yes.
If only Frodo had a flamethrower, he could have much more easily taken out Gollum and not lost a finger. And there is one shot in here, which I think is pretty interesting. It is right at about 56 seconds, right before the explosion goes off. His eye slits are clearly covered.
Oh, that's the 1 second I can't get it to pause on.
Yeah, it's right when the explosion goes off and rocks him forward.
Oh, yeah.
It makes me wonder if supposedly like he has had coverings on his eye slits the entire time, or if that was something that they just put on for the safety of Mike inside the suit, just to keep him safe from whatever stunt happened to be going on in that particular shot.
And they didn't go in and take it out digitally, because who's going to watch this in such minute detail?
Exactly.
That would be weird. What a waste of time that would be to go take those out. Nobody's gonna catch that.
Who would do such a thing? Yeah, but I kind of like it, and seeing those, I was like, I kind of wish that we had seen something like that the whole time. But I don't know. It's one of those things. It's cool when it's just kind of this cavernous black eye hole. So I guess I like it. I guess I like having it both ways. What can I say? This is another moment where we still have a lot of these guards just running around shooting at Tony, and I just can't quite pinpoint who any of them are. But this is the end of most of them, though.
Yeah,
I don't think we're going to be seeing many of these guys coming
like
back.
Their futures are particularly they are particularly bright, but not in the sense that one normally means that term.
Wah wah. Yes, no. This is going to be a big blow-uppy mess for these guys. They're gonna end, and it makes you wonder when Abu and his two guys get back from the grocery store or from the wheat pickup that they're going to. If they're going to just walk away and not worry about all of this, or if they're actually going to stay and clean it up.
They just roll up with their cart of grain, take one look, and start backing it back down the path.
Yeah,
okay.
I'm just like, nope, not even gonna. we talked about this much earlier in the show, but we are back at the location. This is a cave location out near Lone Pine, California, where they had been filming a lot of the other exterior scenes of Afghanistan when they're driving around, the sand dunes, all of that stuff is out here in this same area. This particular cave is east of the Lone Pine area up in the hills. I know it had been used for some other productions. I think it's called Cerro Gordo, I believe. And that's the area where this actually was. This was a nice change of pace, finally, to move away from that cave set that we had been in. Now we're in a real location.
Yeah, a lot of things have been filmed there.
So much stuff had been filmed up in the Lone Pine area. A lot of Westerns in the old days, a lot of big Hollywood movies when they need kind of that right sort of look will come out here. Or if they need to film something that looks like Afghanistan, they'll come out here.
Yeah, it's a great look.
Yeah. I don't think I have anything else in this minute. What about you?
I got to critique Tony's plan, so I'm good.
Yeah, that was the big important point there.
Yep.
Well, at the end of everybody's visit on the show, we like to talk to them about their journey with the Marvel films and comics. Although I think you said earlier in the week that you weren't really a reader of the Iron Man comics.
No, I certainly was not. If you think about just in broad Marvel terms, my first foray into the world was the animated X-Men cartoon from the early 90s. We used to play X-Men at recess. But that was pretty much it until this movie came out. And I admittedly wasn't super interested in it when it came out in theaters. I had a friend who was really into comic books and he was dressing up as Iron Man for things. But the guy I was dating at the time, dear FBI, if you're listening, this was not me. I did not do this. I did not pirate. You know what? It was still in the theater when he pirated it from, I don't know where he got it from. But we actually had to watch the movie in 2 parts.
Oh, that's always fun.
Yeah. And I think this was about where the file switch happened. And because this, for some reason, this always sticks in my head as where the movie initially ended for me.
Oh, really? Right around this firefight scene?
Because you'd have to get up and change the file, click on the other file or whatever. But yeah, so I first saw it that way. And then I was hooked. I really enjoyed this movie. And so I managed to see all of the next, 4 or 5 in the theater, opening weekend as they came out, and would, then spend time talking about them. And then they just, when they started releasing, more than one a year, I fell off the wagon a little bit. I think I'm all caught back up. And then I got back to the theater with the most recent Avengers.
The Infinity War?
Yeah. So I missed a bunch of these in the theater.
They have been cranking them out. I mean, they're averaging at this point 1 every 2 years, but obviously they weren't starting that way, as you said. I mean, they've had a good number of years where it was 3 a year, and it does make for a lot of stuff. And for us doing this show,
oh boy!
We're never going to be. They're always going to be getting farther away from us.
Oh yeah,
I don't know how we'll be able to catch up.
We recently somehow got on an Infinity War tangent on a recent recording of Mean Girls Minute, and I was just like, I feel like I was stepping on the Marvel Universe guys, but they're not going to be there for. It's going to feel like infinity. A
good 20 years before we get around to talk about that one.
So nobody's going to remember whatever random tangent we went on.
Right, exactly. Oh my God. I'm not even remember what we talked about on the Iron Man show.
Oh, yeah, definitely not.
Holy cow.
It's nuts. But yeah, so this was my first real comic book movie that no, I also really liked the X-Men movies in the late 90s. And
what about the Spider-Man movies? Did you like those ones?
No. First Spider-Man movie I liked was Spider-Man Homecoming.
Oh, wow.
Well, I have to admit I didn't. I haven't seen the Andrew Garfield ones, but there's something about Tobey Maguire that I hate. So I saw his first Spider-Man movie and I was just like, no more. Also, the first 2 Hulk movies, both bad. I just did not like them.
Well, that leads to my next question. If you, I don't want anybody to feel like they have to rank all 20 movies because that's a lot of ranking. But what would you say is like your favorite? Do you have like one that's like at the top or a couple that are up at the top?
Yeah, I think Captain America: The First Avenger is probably it's definitely the one I've seen the most. I mean, it also helps that it was like on TNT or whatever every week for 3 years. really, really helped up its viewing numbers.
Right.
I also really liked the first Thor a lot, but I've really started enjoying the newer ones that have the comedy worked in. I preferred the first Guardians of the Galaxy over the second one, but Thor Ragnarok, I know that the fandom was sort of split on that, but I adore that movie. And then Black Panther is beautiful and funny and well written and well acted and super engaging. And I watched that just the other day because I don't know what I was doing, but I was like, I want to watch Black Panther.
It is a great movie. There are so many highlights throughout the franchise, so it's easy. Easy to kind of rewatch one and go, oh, that one might be my new favorite. You know, I think that's easy.
Yeah, they've reeled me back in. I struggled with them for a while because all of them were so dark, not thematically, but on like the color of the movie was so dark.
Oh, interesting.
And I don't know if I have bad eyes, but
it's because you're watching those ripped versions.
No, I buy them now. I pay money for them now. But like the second Thor, I just didn't know what was happening most of the time because it was so dark always.
It was the dark world.
And okay, fair. But I just didn't know. I couldn't follow it. And even Captain America's dark a lot. And I get it. It's to set a tone or whatever, but I don't buy super expensive TVs because it's not my number one priority. So when I'm watching a movie on my TV, I don't know I got to be able to see it.
Right. Well, at least they're not as dark as the DC movies because some of those are really, really dark.
Oh, yeah. No. No.
Right.
Not even. I don't. Yeah.
Why did I have to bring that up?
Right. Yeah. Except for Wonder Woman. I'll be nice about that movie.
No, she's great. Yeah.
But I don't need it to be dark and gritty. It's fine.
And then you look at like you said, the Guardians of the Galaxy, Thor Ragnarok, the tone that they have is much lighter and it doesn't have quite that darkness. And so in fact, if anything, I'd say they're like Technicolor colorful.
Yes. And that really appeals to me as like I still, I love a comic book movie that looks like it could also be a musical.
Yeah. Yeah. That certainly fits with those ones.
Yeah. And I mean, the stakes aren't any lower and you don't feel like the stakes are any lower,
yeah.
But you can see what's happening on screen. I might also just be a very old person in a young person's body.
Oh, there could be that. No, but it is true though, where it is a comic book world. And so I think having some of the colors, I think allows for that tone to bleed through. Now, this is Iron Man. Technically, it's, this iron feel. And I mean, he obviously has a colorful suit and everything, but it is something that I think that they allow to kind of come forward a little bit more as they move along.
Yeah. And, in this movie, even in the cave scenes, I could see what was going on because the way that it had been lit and that they used different colors and the green instead of the blue cast maybe helps.
Right.
But I could tell what was going on in those cave scenes.
And Jon Favreau, I think he's a director who handles the way that he's telling the story, I think comes through pretty clearly. I've never seen anything of his that's difficult to sort out. Like I just find him as a filmmaker, I don't want to use the word safe, but I do feel like his filmmaking style is designed to make sure stuff is clear.
He's going to come to you.
Yes.
Where you are.
Yes.
He's not going to make you go on some journey and go buy corrective eyewear. He's going to come to you where you are.
Exactly. Well, fantastic, Liz. Thank you so much again for coming on the show all week this week. I appreciate it.
I was so excited to be on. Thank you for having me.
So one last time, you want to plug where people can find you out there in the world?
Sure. Well, the easiest place to find me is at Mean Girls Minute on Twitter or Facebook or Instagram, or the North Shore Burn Book, also on Facebook. And if you follow any of those places, then I'll also tell you when I'm guesting on other shows like this. So you can just follow me around the internet.
Wherever she goes. Well, thanks again, Liz. And that's it, everybody. That's it for this week. That's it for today's show. Thank you so much for tuning in. Make sure you subscribe to the show for free at marvelmovieminute.com. Join us over in our Discord chat room and follow us on Facebook, Twitter, and Instagram at The Next Reel. If you like what we do and you want to support us and get some cool stuff, become a patron over at patreon.com/thenextreel. Until next time, true believers.